Jazakallah khair. We started off with the kind of anchoring the conversation in the Quran and the Seerah. And actually, I'm going to ask those of you on the side if you guys can move to the side, up front a little bit. And those of you guys who are in the back, if you want to come forward. And I want to start off by asking how many of you are currently looking after elders? If you can just raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you anticipate that you will be looking after your parents sometime soon, in the next 10 years? Okay. So this is great. This is a great crowd. And I'm hoping that as we're having this conversation, those of you who are in it, it will kind of shed light onto some of the struggles that you're dealing with. And those of you who are planning on being there, inshallah, soon, it gives you some kind of time to start working and preparing and kind of fertilizing the ground of what's to come. So before we start, I just want to give a little bit of background for you to understand the conversation that we're going to have today, where it's coming from a personal perspective. So I was very fortunate I'm born and raised in the US, and my grandparents were here as well. And I was able to see my parents, as you know, Khalil was talking earlier about like what you see, you will then kind of continue. I was able to see how my parents looked after my grandparents. And you needed to take a team approach in caring for your elders. My grandparents came here probably when they were 60, 70 years old. They were dependent on my parents, but they were also independent. And so as I watched that happen, I started to realize, as a community, we're not addressing this issue. I saw how my mom was trying to, manage work and manage a family and then manage looking after her parents. I saw like some of the experiences that I had personally as a child, kind of struggling to get attention, trying to getting help, as well as, she not being there for me all the time, right? And so those are issues and challenges you struggle. And so I started mentally taking notes. And then we realized, as I got older, had my own family, started to realize that we need to take care of our elders as well. So eventually, it took us a few years to convince my parent-in-laws to move in with us, because my father-in-law had Alzheimer's, Allah yarhamahu, and my mother-in-law had Lewy body dementia. And both of them have since passed. Actually, my mother-in-law just passed a few weeks ago. Allah yarhamahu. Please keep them in your du'as. But the experience of watching, my grandparents, having my in-laws live with us, and my parents are in their 80s, and so they have their needs, and I'm part of a big family where there are like 600 of us in the US, alhamdulillah. So my kids have tons of grandparents. They're like, I don't know how we're related, but we're all, like, you have so many nanas and nanis and dadas and dadis, I don't know what to do with them, right? So many of them. And so it's a very interesting experience to see how do we as a community care for elders in the US. Because it's a very different experience than in whatever country of origin we're coming from, whether it's India, Pakistan, where it's in the Arab world. It's a very different experience because there you have the neighborhood, you have the extended relatives, you had a cultural system that respects and cares for elders. We don't have that here. Elders are supposed to be stuffed away in the corner, not to be seen, not to be heard, not to be considered. But our deen has this value that we just spoke about how important it is to take care of elders. And so as we start this conversation, it's really important for us to recognize these different factors that those of us who are living in America are dealing with. We're dealing with, okay, we don't have the social system and the support network here. We have these values, and we have the realities of we're looking after our parents, we're looking after our community, we're taking care of our kids, and somehow we're supposed to manage this by ourselves, which is ridiculous. because we can't, right? And so when we talk about this, this actually resulted in us starting doing more research on aging in the Muslim community, providing resources, and I'll talk about that later on. But that's kind of how my journey on this topic began, because a lot of the challenges that I saw personally experiencing as a clinician, I'm also a psychologist, talking to different families, there are a lot of topics we don't talk about. And it's important that those of us who are struggling, we can label it. And those of us who are going to be there, you're walking in with your eyes wide open, right? And so when we talk about elders, recognize there are nuances that you need to consider. For example, are your parents here or abroad? Physically, what is their health? Physically, what is your health? What is the relationship that you have with them? What is their medical condition, the mental health condition? All of these topics we need to think about. And so what I'm going to share may or may not be applicable to you, and I'm going to try to give different examples to help us through the conversation. But, just want us to kind of recognize that this difference does occur, and there are many different experiences of aging and many different experiences of caregiving. And so that's why we're discussing it here. It may not be the hottest, exciting topic, but it is the reality that if you're here and you take notes and you go away with this content, I'm guaranteeing you your life will be so much easier, inshallah. So with that, I wanted to start off with the first thing is when we talk about a lot of this, one of the things, we talked about how important it is, right? We talked about the importance and the values of caring for our elders with ihsan, and the challenges and struggles we have, and how hard it is to not say oof, right? I remember I never truly understood that ayah until I started caring for my in-laws and my parents. The urge and the desire to say oof is so strong because you're so exhausted, you're so frustrated. I mean, this is the reality. We don't talk about it. And I think it's important to recognize what's going on for us, right? So one of the things is, recognize that oftentimes when you're taking care of your parents, especially when their health is not doing well, many of us find ourselves in survival mode, right? Where we're operating and we're just doing what needs to be done, get them to the doctor's appointment, getting places, going here, going there, and just like you're acting like a robot, right? And you're constantly managing different crises, and what often happens is you do this at the expense of your own well-being and health. Right? It took me 2 or 3 years to get to a doctor's appointment because I was so busy. I got to get my in-laws appointments taken care of. Then I also have to get to work, but I can't do both. I've already taken, the doctor's appointment take 2 or 3 hours, and then you have to somehow make up the hours, and then you have to. You're just in survival mode. You don't have time for anything else, and that results in exhaustion and burnout. And again, I'm saying this stuff because a lot of times when we're in it, we don't see it. As we were going through it, I had the clinical background to recognize what it was. But when I would bring it up with my husband, he's like, I'm not tired. I'm fine. He's like a robot ready to go. I'm like, dude, when they leave, you sleep or you get sick for like a week. He's like, I'm okay. I keep on going. I'm like, no, you're not. Right? And so look at the patterns that are happening. If each time your parents go away, and you're getting sick, and you're having to sleep, that's telling you something. Even if your mind doesn't want to recognize it, your body is telling you the stress is here. My body, I've been healthy all my life. And then all of a sudden, a few years ago, like my body went haywire. I'm like, what is going on? I've got this happening, and you have to get surgery for this, and I'm like, why? It was the stress taking an impact on your body, right? So recognize that's what's going on, and don't miss it, right? Third thing is also it does have an impact on your work and career if you don't plan for it, right? And so in our case, what we had to do, my husband was in corporate America, and I run a nonprofit, so my time was flexible. And so I was taking them to the doctor's appointments. But like I said, they say 10 o'clock, but the doctor doesn't come till 12:30, and then you have to wait for the full hour, and then you have to get back, and then you're exhausted because then you have to feed everyone, and that day is gone, right? And so that does have an impact on your work and career. Do we recognize that? Do we have conversations about it? And again, I'm listing the problems, but don't worry, I'm gonna get to the solutions, because there are solutions, and that's what, but I'm just trying to explain to you the level of depth of what happens. Because if you're not the one who's looking after your parents, and somebody else is, you really need to understand how much they're doing. Because most kids who are living away from their parents and not doing the actual caregiving have no clue how much emotional, physical, every toll it has on your body, right? The other aspect is, in addition to the work career aspect, is the family and social isolation that results, right? So one of the things is, as the parents get older, they need a lot more help. They need a lot more support. Our communities are, for the most part, not very friendly to the elders. You have a party, just the family is invited, the elders are not necessarily invited. What am I going to do with my in-laws? What am I going to do with my parents? If they're living with me, they need help, I need to be there. So we slowly stopped going to parties, to the point where we never go. And so what happens? When you're not going to community events, people forget about you, out of sight, out of mind. So then that results in social isolation. And part of it is also really thinking, even in Ramadan, where you have the community gets together, it's hard. Because if your parents want to have iftar and to go for Tarawih prayers, well, you need to get them the food, then they need to go to the bathroom because they don't want to use the masjid bathrooms, and then they need to rest sometimes, and then you need to get to the masjid in time so you can get handicapped parking, which most masajids do not have enough handicapped parking. There's a lot of things you need to think through to be able to get to the masjid. And you have to be there earlier. So all of these things are happening, and so that has an impact on what you can and cannot do as a family, and so you slowly stop going to those events, right? And then there's a financial, physical, emotional cost to all of this that just runs you down over and over again. And again, if those conversations are not happening as a family, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And so we go to the next one, and we think about, okay, so what are the solutions? I don't want to be a Debbie Downer and just gloom doom. No, there's barakah in this work that we do, and we're serving our parents, but it is challenging, and so you need to be very intentional about what you do and how you do it. So, and one of the things is, as a deen, right, or as our faith is not kind of I'm a victim, it's, no, you have an issue, you identify the issue, and you address it, right? And we all are familiar with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about tying your camel, right? You tie your camel, and you trust in Allah, you make dua. So, of course, one of the things that we really need to think about is really being aware of what's going on. How many of you guys are familiar with the term muraqabah? Right? Muraqabah, where there is importance in Islam to be really reflective, self-aware of your physical body, your thoughts, your spiritual connection to Allah. All of those things are really important when we're thinking about solutions to the challenges that we experience in caregiving, right? So when you think about body awareness, what I was talking about earlier, being so exhausted, and my husband being like, I'm totally fine, I'm okay, but he's a zombie, right? That's part of the process, right? You need to realize, what does your body look like and feel like when it's relaxed? And what does it look like and feel like when it's tense? And then what do you do with it when you recognize you're tense? Right? And so part of what I started to do is, okay, I know where I get tense. It's all the way on my neck, and I hold it here. And so I started doing exercises to relieve the tension. Right? going out in nature to kind of get the fresh air because I needed that. That's part of the body awareness. I knew that for my mental health and well-being, I needed to play field hockey, floor hockey every week, Wednesday nights at the masjid. I just needed to get the energy out because if I didn't hit the puck, I was going to hit something else, right? And so recognizing that these are needs that we have, and if we don't recognize it and do something with it, it's going to hurt us later on. And so part of that is being aware of your body. The second thing is emotional awareness. Really like paying attention to what are the thoughts that you're having. An incident happens and you get triggered. Well, what's going on there? Why am I getting triggered? Right? And so part of that self-reflection is really important because if you understand where those thoughts are coming from, where are you getting triggered, why are you getting triggered, then you can start making change. So one of the things that I found with myself is I had been socialized from my parents and my family what the role of a daughter-in-law should be like. But that's not what my in-laws expected of me. Right? I was doing all these things, like working myself up, and my husband's like, you don't need to do these things. I'm like, you don't know what it's like to be a woman. I went off on him. I go off on him all the time. Miskeen. But I mean, part of it is recognizing that half the stuff that I was doing because that's what I thought I had to do, but they weren't expecting it, and they weren't asking for it, and so I was just wasting my time. But I was getting triggered over something that I had full control over. And I was getting triggered about things that I didn't even have to do, right? And so that's part of the emotional awareness you need to be reflecting on and understanding what's going on. The third thing is really being aware of your spiritual connection. What's happening? Is your iman going low? Are you engaging in your adhkar that you normally do? Are you reading your Quran regularly? Because if you are able to do that and have that connection, that's going to help you go through some of the really challenging parts. There were certain verses of the Quran I just put by my desk because I needed it. I needed those ayat to kind of help me get through the day. I needed my du'as. When I was in sujood, they'd be like, Ya Allah, I don't even know how to handle this. I'm giving it to you. If you don't have that deep connection, you're losing out on an immense source of strength. Strengthen that connection, deepen it, because oftentimes we forget about it. Like, I don't have time to go into that halaqah. I don't have time to go to that event. I don't have time to watch that video. No, you have to make time for it. Because if you don't, you're going to get spiritually depleted. And that spiritual strength is what's going to carry you through some of the most difficult time periods. Right? And also recognize the importance of what you have control over and what you don't. What you have control over, focus and implement. What you don't have control over, communicate your needs and make dua. I had lots of issues on these topics, and I would communicate. I need help here. If people don't help, there's only so much I can do. I can stop enabling. I can stop doing other things. And I focused on my du'as. But recognizing that you focus on what you can and cannot do, and put your energy that way. And in doing that, ask for help. Don't expect that this is your only thing. This is your responsibility. This is all on you. No, if there are other siblings involved, ask them to step up. Because oftentimes what we see across the nation now that we've been doing so much, it's usually one or two children who step up. And then everything gets loaded on those one or two children, right? And so if other people are not asking questions and they're like, oh, we think you have everything under control. And you're like, no, I'm dying, I'm sinking. I feel like I'm like just coming up afloat for a few seconds, right? If they don't have the kind of whatever to ask and check in, then you need to say, look, this is your responsibility, step up, and give them the task, right? And so ask for help, be specific, start off with positive communication, and you make dua for the rest. And that always comes through, inshallah. So that's kind of the self stuff, right? Then we think about the family challenges. What are the challenges? And again, you guys, those of you who are going through this, you know what the issues are, right? There is a lot of marital stress. People don't talk about it because you're just go, 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 go. You don't have time to talk. You don't have time to invest in the relationship, go out for date nights because you're just so exhausted, right? And those are the things you need to pay attention to, because if you don't, that's going to result in increased disconnection in the relationship. And you need to be supporters of one another. If you don't have each other's back and you don't feel the connection with each other, you're going to have a higher likelihood of breaking and kind of everyone being in their own kind of isolated areas. So work on the marital, recognize that there likely may be marital stress, address those, have conversations. Recognize there are going to be parenting challenges. You know, you're juggling so many different things. I made a lot of parenting mistakes. Right? I just didn't have time. You know, I forgot to pick up my kids sometimes from different events because I was like, oh, I forgot. I'm just so focused on my taking care of my in-laws. I focus on, well, I have to make fresh food, or I have to do this, I have to do that. Like, there's all this stress and anxiety, right? And then you forget important things. Or you don't have time to have important conversations with your kids and having, understanding what's going on. And they start acting out. Because oftentimes the kids are feeling lost. Like, where am I in this shuffle? Do I even matter? Do I even have your attention? And so you'll see a lot of acting out behavior that may take place. Recognize it for what it is. It's not them being bad. They're just trying to get your attention because that's the only way they can get it. And so those children, our children are feeling lost, and so recognize that it's happening. And then there's increase in the family as a whole getting isolated from other community members. So you might have done things as a family. You might have had family breakfasts or family dinners, but it's harder to have that now because the expectations are different, the conversation is different, you're focusing on the elders. All of that changes. So those are some of the family challenges that happen. Okay. So what do we do? How do you address those as solutions, right? Open communication is extremely important. Sometimes our kids or our spouses, if we're looking after our parents, don't feel comfortable bringing up some of the issues and concerns because they don't want to hurt you, right? Create an open space where those conversations can take place. Don't get defensive, because when you get defensive, you've closed off the communication possibilities. And so, and this is one of the things that happened with us. My husband didn't understand what was going on with the kids and how they were very frustrated, how I was frustrated, and all this stuff was going on. He didn't do it intentionally. He was just so busy getting the job done, right? And so we were able to start working on better communication and understanding, okay, this is what's going on, this is what the issue is, this is what we're worried about, and this is what we need. And so really trying to address that. Making sure that you have regular family rituals. So it may be with the elders you can't do certain things, but can you take out time and have something else? So maybe it's a family breakfast while the elders are still sleeping, and then the kids can all have those conversations. Or maybe it's, okay, one night somebody else will look after the elders and then you go out as a family. Like, understanding, because remember, unless you've lived in a multi-generational home and that's the only thing you know, then this is kind of normal. But for most of our families, we are not living in multi-generational homes. And so when the elder comes in and starts living with you, it's a new dynamic, and you have to get used to it, and it's really hard, especially when there's health issues. Now, this is all assumption if someone's living with you. Now, if you have elders who are living away, then making sure who's going to go spend time with the elders, who's going to take care of all the housework around the house, all of those things we need to think about and have those conversations about. So really making sure that there's time for alone time, there's time that you take time for respite care. Oftentimes you feel guilty, why do I need to get help taking care of my parents? There's a lot of guilt we have. But if you want to be able to continue caring for your parents, you need to fill your cup. You need to have that time to recharge. And so making sure that you do that for your family. And start developing positive associations for your kids, for your family, with your elders, to recognize that, yes, there is barakah in this, there is ni'mah, and sometimes you can see it as a parent, but our kids can't see it. So make sure to point it out so that they understand and they start making the association. And sometimes you need therapy, professional help, because it's a lot to kind of struggle through. And so when we think about it, the other thing that we don't really talk about is the sibling challenges. Because, like I said, usually it's one or two kids who kind of step up to the plate, and the others are not around. And it could be for different reasons. Maybe they were never asked to kind of take on responsibilities, so why take on when you don't have to? It could be that they don't see the issues, and so they're not around. And so we often struggle with sibling challenges. And by the way, I know a lot of people are taking pictures. At the end, I'll give you guys a QR code. If you just email the QR code, we'll send you the information. And this is just like a snippet of how much we have online. But so recognize with siblings, a lot of the childhood issues will start resurfacing. Whoever is their favorite child, the conflict, the doer, like all of that stuff comes up when it comes to elder care. The same people, the same jobs, same responsibilities, now it's just older. And so those tensions start coming up. You start seeing disagreements over care. So one care, I was working with one family, and they had a lot of this issue of the childhood traumas and relationship issues coming up. And so the elder is on her deathbed, and this issue is coming up again. Should we do surgery? Should we not do surgery? Should we, focus on the quality of life, or should we try to take every intervention? And these tensions start coming up over how to care for your elder, what to do. And the frustration of the caregivers is like, who are you, the other siblings, who are not even doing anything to even say anything? Like, what right do you have? You're not even here. So that's also a tension that comes up. The physical distance is a challenge. The people who are far away may not see the day-to-day, and so they don't know how much it's impacting you, right? And so, really thinking those siblings who are further away, like, what role can you have? How can you help out? And then there's sometimes a financial conflict that comes up of, how am I going to pay for this? Especially for the parents who are coming over as dependents. And then a lot of times as a community, as siblings and families, we don't communicate. We fight, but we don't communicate about what's underlying, what's bothering you, what's hurting you, what are the frustrations, what's underlying the tension. We just ignore it and pretend like, it's not worth it. Let's not fight about it, right? And so recognizing that these are very common issues when we're dealing with elders. And so a couple of the solutions that you can do, right? Make sure, especially as your parents are aging, to have regular family meetings. When they're healthy and things are going well, WhatsApp, those types of communication, that's fine. But once their health starts deteriorating, have regular family meetings, updating people, what's going on, how they're doing, what needs to be done, and make sure that there is that plan of action where there is a division of labor. Okay, someone can handle the medical, somebody can handle the dental, someone can handle the, buying whatever purchase that they need, somebody handles kind of the house stuff. Like really thinking about what role can I do, and how can I help the situation? So in our case, I'm looking at my father-in-law. He lived outside of Pakistan all his life, but he had a brother-in-law and sister who took care of his parents, right? But he respected them and supported them financially, and made sure that his family was cared for and did everything. That was how he was contributing to it, right? Physically, he wasn't there. Physically, he couldn't do much, but when he was there, he was doing the khidmah. He was making sure that those who were looking after were appreciated, were respected, knew that he saw what they did and how much they did. Because oftentimes, those who are coming from further away don't realize all of that, and they're like, I'm just coming to visit. And then when you do come to visit, be mindful. Don't expect the hosting family of the elder to just drop everything and just be there for you. They do this all the time. One of the things that I saw with my grandparents was my uncles and aunts would bring food and take care of the meal so that my mom didn't have to, because she's she's doing everything. She's working. She's looking after my grandparents. She can't be hosting everyone, big gatherings every single weekend. It's just impossible. So they started making those changes. So really be mindful about these things that, those of you who are living far away from your parents may not be thinking about. And making sure, again, we talked about earlier about the biological children versus the in-laws. But some, I'm coming from kind of a South Asian background. 2 more minutes. 20 minutes left? Okay, 20 minutes. Okay. Okay. So one of the things that we have in the South Asian culture is the daughter-in-law, the bahu, is basically the servant, right? That's the expectation. But the reality is, it's not even her responsibility. First goes to the biological children. Then it's the grandchildren. Then out of rahmah, it's the daughter-in-law, right? And the daughter-in-law and the son-in-law's expectations are not the same, right? And so we have to get rid of and address these social, cultural kind of norms that have developed that are not based in the deen. Because what happens is now you start poisoning the relationship of the daughter-in-law with the rest of the family. And then how are you creating positivity in your family, right? How are you creating that love? And so really think about what's happening and knowing what your responsibilities are. And making sure to step up to the plate. And then, if you're doing all this stuff, and people are not changing, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you need to stop enabling the dysfunction and let things fall apart, not for the elders, you always take care of the elders, but let the systems that allow the same people to do the work stop and see what happens. It is the hardest thing in the world to do because of our values. But sometimes until you stop enabling, the others will not step up to the plate. And you need that to take place for others to kind of help out for you to survive caregiving. I know I'm going through a lot, but I want to also sharing some resources, right? And so, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the director of the Family and Youth Institute, and many of the things that we have done has been really focused on addressing these mental health issues facing the Muslim community. Okay? We are a national research and education institute that focuses on Muslim mental health at all stages of life, whether it's infancy or elder care. Right? And we want to see our community thrive. And so to do that, what we want to do is make sure that we have what we need as a community. And so when it comes to elder care, we've kind of identified the issue, we've done research, we've focused on what are the solutions that we need, that we can give you to empower you on this path, and then getting it out to you. And so part of this, coming to this convention, and actually all the mass conventions this year are covering elder care, because we're realizing that this is an issue that nobody's addressing, and these are resources that we need as a community, and so the organization wanted to make sure that we empower you. And so part of that is recognizing that we do have resources within the community that is focused for our community. Recognizing that we do have research, we have videos, we have blogs, we have articles, we have toolkits. What I shared with you is just maybe 1 or 2 articles from all of what we have. So if you want more, there's a lot more on our website. And I encourage you that if you are interested in the content, just sign up with the QR code. I will send you the content if you want. And additional resources, because I didn't want to overwhelm you with so much, but just go to the QR code, tell me the session that you're in, and then I'll send you an email. It'll take about a week, maybe inshallah, to get it to you, but I'll get it to you inshallah. Jazakallahu khair.